What's going on, everybody? Back again with another 1911 video, our favorite gun, right? That's why we're here. We're not here for me, we're here for this guy. So I'm really excited about today's video. We're going to be talking about 1911 knowledge centers. And that's a little vague, but on purpose. Give me a minute, we'll get there. So before we get into today's video, just a couple housekeeping things. One, look, everybody keeps saying it. I know everybody wants the audio corrected, and I'm getting there. Look, I've been involved with music for, I think, 27 years as of this year. And so I know exactly the equipment we need, the mics, everything like that. But you got to realize, guys, this is not my full-time job, okay? So I've already made some capital investment into this YouTube channel. But going forward, the channel is going to have to support itself because I work 2 jobs. I've got a pile of kids and plus one on the way. So I'm a busy guy and I got other priorities. And so I can't just jump straight to super studio quality with the YouTube channel. And look, it's just going to have to grow, and you guys' support is going to get me there. So we already got lights. And just to prove to you how great these lights are, that's what it looks like without them. Okay. Now everything's yellow. So we got lights, we're getting there, cameras eventually, mics, got a Scarlett system that we'll be getting into. So just be patient. I'm grateful you're here, but really just give me some time for things to grow a little bit. And speaking of growth, I just want to thank everybody for the views and the subscriptions and the comments and everything, man. Well, the good comments. There's some absolute turd monsters in the comments, and I'll just keep saying, hey, keep commenting and being a turd monster because you're literally drawing traffic to my channel. So, gee, thanks. But no, I really appreciate the activity, and you guys are helping this thing grow. It's gone way past what I thought it would, and I'm very grateful. Man, I just feel like we're growing this like community of friends here on the channel. You know, every time I put up a video, I'm always looking forward, to the guys that are going to show up, 007 Chancellor and Top Turret Gunner and Chris Chiampo and just there's a crew that shows up regularly and comments, and I just love it. I love talking to you guys and laughing with you. And I also want to shout out the Patreon guys. We're having a great time over there on Patreon. The guys that are paid members, we have our own little chat for the paid subscribers. And man, Alex and Horace and all those guys over there, we're having a great time just talking. But also we have, I think we're up to 3 videos now where we're talking about the technical stuff that I can't show on YouTube. And so there's some actual, I'm trying to make it valuable for people to support the channel in that regard. So anyway, look, I'm just grateful for everybody, the love and the solid commitments everybody's made to grow the channel, and I look forward to future growth. Okay, let's get into today's video. So today we are talking about 1911 knowledge centers. And really what this video is about is, look, when we're trying to learn about the 1911, there's so much out there for us to learn, right? But most of the time, the first place we go is very obviously the internet. And that's not a bad thing. But it also can kind of be a bad thing. It can be hot chaos. It can be a dumpster fire of information. There's a lot of great opinions, a lot of really smart people. I'm not so sure I'm one of them. But there's also, boy, there are some opinions that are terrible. They're so bad and based on nothing. And so what I want to give you guys today in this video is maybe another piece that I think most of us miss when we're learning about the 1911. And that is the hard information that goes back to the beginning. Now, this is not all of my information. I'm giving you a piece. I think learning from folks on YouTube are great. Learning from, real expert gun builders of today and yesterday is great. So what's the missing piece? Well, I'm going to recommend a couple things to you today. Now, the lights are going to do funny things when I bring these in here because this computer wants to do my thinking for me. So I think the thing we're missing nowadays is reading the manual. Now, there's a lot of manuals on the 1911. I have in front of me just a couple pieces of information because I don't want this video to be too long. But man, you have the 1912 manual. You've got this one here, 1918. You've got the A1s in like 1920s, and there's like 2 of them, I think, from that period. This one here is a sort of an amalgamation of the A1s, the original A1 manuals, but this one goes all the way up. This one's from 1964. And then, of course, you have more modern ones, but there's a lot of manuals out there. And so we're going to just kind of dive in and look at some of the information here. Now, I want to be really clear. What I'm not talking about is these bullcrap manuals that come with our guns nowadays. Now, I don't care what company it is. I have not seen a helpful manual yet. And here's why. And I'm just going to flip through here, okay? So right now we're starting this little manual off with how not to blast yourself. Okay, cool. Oh, don't use drugs or alcohol while shooting. Got it. Eye protection. Cool story. Oh, and then there's the stupid safety lock that everybody throws right in the garbage. Cool beans. Okay, there's what some of the parts are called. Okay, neat. Okay, now loading. But in big bold letters, make sure not to blast yourself while you're loading. And by the way, this thing's not even stapled together. Come on, T-Sauce. Firing, also, giant warnings. Don't blast yourself. Unloading, yet again, don't blast yourself. Troubleshooting, don't blast yourself. Like, genuinely, it's a useless document. So when I say let's read the manual, I'm talking about the ones that actually teach you something about the gun before you. So the first category of information that I think next to no one goes after are the original manuals. So I've got 2 before me today, and we're going to just dive right into the first one here that I have, and this is a reprint. Now these are not printed anymore currently, so this one cost me $60. They're not cheap when you find them. But this is a reprint prepared by General Headquarters of the American Expeditionary Forces in France, February of 1918. So this manual I find to be the most interesting manual for the 1911 because it was printed during war. So the 1912 manual is really based on factory and designer testing, John Moses Browning and Colt. And it's kind of like a really early manual, and there's not a ton in there that's super interesting, right? But this one is genuinely fascinating, and there's some actually quite funny things in here, which we'll look at. Now, those of you who know your history, World War I ended in November of 1918. This was written in February of 1918, and it says here that it was written in France. So really, really interesting. And I think in the back here, it even says that it was printed originally in France. So this was written during wartime for the 1911 pistol. So we're just going to look through here a little bit. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. Now, I will say this is available online in a few different versions. I think the 1912 version, like National Archive has it, I think, on their website. Forgotten Weapons has a PDF, like a digital version of some early manuals. So this stuff's available, but I'm just a fan of hard copies when I can find it. And just so you guys can see, I do have the actual 1912 version of the manual printed out here. It says April 1, 1912, revised February 14th, 1914. And really the deal with this manual, the reason I'm not really making it a main body in this video is just because it's very dry. It reads a lot like the patent documents. There's a lot that's repeated here, but it's just kind of dry. It's more technical data and telling you how things function generally than it is super helpful. So that's the only reason I'm not really diving into the 1912 version. So let's just dive right in and look at some things that you learn, not just like how not to blast yourself, but actually learn something about the pistol. And I wanted to start off, and I've got some stuff bookmarked here. I want to start off with a myth busting thing here. This one's very funny to me. We're told never pull the slide back on your pistol and load around right in the chamber and drop the slide because it'll damage your extractor. I've never believed that. I think that's hogwash, and that sounds like Wilson Combat propaganda to me. And so let's just read what the manual says about that. If it is designed, and this is page 6 of the 1911 manual, it says method of operation. If it is desired to make the pistol ready for instant use and for firing with the least possible delay and the maximum number of shots, draw back the slide, insert a cartridge by hand into the chamber of the barrel, and allow the slide to close. Fascinating. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, also, some people have questioned where I got the idea that some guys would actually have a round in the chamber and carry with the hammer down. Well, let's just look on page 7. And this is talking about grip safety functions. And a lot of people don't realize that this grip safety, this little dongle that hangs off the back here, is not just there to protect your hand. The original intent was that the hammer can be drawn back and actuate the grip safety so that you could depress the grip safety, pull the trigger, and lower the hammer. Now, this is found explicitly in the words of John Moses Browning himself in the original patent documents, which we're not going to look at today, but I also have those. They're fascinating. But it says here, right in the manual, but also, and it's talking about the grip safety functions, and it says, but the grip safety also aids in accurate shooting by keeping the hand in the same position for each shot, and furthermore, permits the lowering of the cocked hammer with one hand by automatically pressing the grip safety when the hammer is drawn slightly beyond the cocked position. And so it literally says what I just showed you, right? You pull the hammer beyond its cocked position and it depresses the grip safety and you can lower the hammer. So that is actually something that was instructed in the manual from go. All right, and then it also immediately deals with the safety issue that a lot of us might have with that in the next point. And it basically says it is impossible for the firing pin to discharge or even touch the primer except on receiving the full blow of the hammer. Now, I'm not advocating for carrying that way, but I'm just telling you that's in there. This is really interesting. I found this fascinating. So a lot of people think that if you control recoil, you're more accurate. And I've been saying how stupid of a statement that is. It has no bearing on reality. And they knew this back in 1918. Listen to this. The weight and consequently the inertia of the slide, augmented by those of the barrel, are so many times greater than the weight and inertia of the bullet that the latter has been given its maximum velocity and has been driven from the muzzle of the barrel before the slide and barrel have recoiled. So that's a really wordy way to say that the bullet has left the pistol long before anything on the pistol physically reacts. And so when I've talked in the past about recoil control, right? Sometimes when I'm trying to shoot for accuracy one-handed, the pistol flops around like crazy. Why? Because I don't care about recoil control, right? What I care about is holding that pistol still and steady and getting a clean shot break, because that bullet is long gone before this pistol ever even moves. And they knew that back in 1918. But a bunch of mongoloids on the internet don't realize that. So again, you learn things when you read the manual. Okay, so this is really, really important. And this is a big part of where I started to understand how crucial recoil springs and magazines are to the function of the pistol. Because this next few sections just scream about magazines and recoil springs over and over and over again. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a few little highlights here. So basically it goes on to talk about how, like, you know, you have to really take care of the magazine, that you shouldn't be being rough with them, right? Because they're essentially sheet metal. And it says, you know, never insert the magazine and strike it smartly, right? As a band to force it home. It says it should be inserted by a quick and continuous movement. You know, this stuff's not in here arbitrarily. They actually knew something. So it talks a lot about magazine care, how to clean the magazine, making sure that when you put the magazine back together, that the spring is in its upright orientation, and that does matter. You put that thing upside down, the pistol will not work. Now, I'm gonna skip there because we're gonna come back to magazines and springs in this other manual here, but I wanted to skip ahead to this part that I just thought was absolutely interesting. So two things. One, in the care and cleaning section of part 3, it says, basically, it's saying here that if you don't clean your gun, you're a moron. So basically, it's saying that one of the fantastic characteristics of the 1911s is they're very reliable. But it says here the mechanism requires just as much care as the bore. Otherwise, the arm will be subject to all kinds of jams. So it's literally saying that, like, clean your guns, right? And why is it important to say this? Well, look, there were a lot of guns that didn't have automatic mechanisms, that have a timing involved and rely on springs and magazines and all these things. It's a little more sensitive than, say, a bolt-action rifle, right? And so they're saying here, look, if you want this gun to work, clean it. All right, this part is just plain funny. It says the pistol is an emergency weapon. This is so funny. So it says, the man who wants to stock on his pistol so that he can shoot it at a distance of several hundred yards has no understanding of the function of the arm. It is solely for the personal protection of the bearer when the enemy is within very short range, and there is no possibility of accomplishing more with other weapons with which the soldier may be armed. So basically they're saying use the pistol with what it's intended for, right? It goes on to say, the member of an automatic rifle or machine gun squad who stops serving his rifle or machine gun to indulge in pistol practice at the enemy is wholly without a proper sense of his duty to his comrades. And this is where it gets great. At the same time, the stupid man who does not use his pistol when the enemy is on top of him and his gun is jammed or is no longer possible to use it profitably deserves no better fate than that which he will profitably get, which is immediate death. So the manual, shots fired. The manual is basically saying, look, this pistol, use it for the right moment, right? Don't grab your pistol and be trying to shoot stuff real far away. That's what rifles are for. But then it turns around and says, but when they're up close, if you don't use your pistol, you deserve the death you're going to have. I love it. I love the salt in the early manual. So that's a little taste of the 1918 manual, okay? Now, it gets really a lot more helpful, I would say, when you get... And I find the 1964 manual is better than the original A1 manuals because now, you know, you have 40-something years, 50 years of experience with the A1 pistol, but really you have like 60-something years with the 1911 pistol at large. And so they have a lot of experience packed into this manual. And I'm just going to, again, give a little taste here. I mean, but it's kind of neat because like in the first part, they tell you the history of the 1911, and they even show you some of the earlier designs that were around before the 1911 got adopted. And they tell you some of the heritage, right? So you see the original 1911s here, and then they talk about how the A1 program came to be developed and the changes that happened. So really, really cool things. Then they get into some technical specs, like how much the pistol weighs. You get here into the trigger weight, which I think is hilarious, that it's 5 to 6.5 pounds. The earlier ones were up to 7.5, so they clearly modified that down. You've got, you know, just all sorts of interesting things. But I want to get here to this section, and this is on page 24. Really, really fascinating thing here. So this talks about how to inspect your pistol after it's been used for quite a while to make sure it's still safe, to make sure all the parts are working properly. So it talks about how to test if the disconnector is worn out. So it says with the pistol unloaded, cock the hammer. Okay? And then it says push the slide group a 1/4 inch to the rear and hold that position while squeezing the trigger. Let the slide group go forward, maintaining pressure on the trigger. If the hammer falls, the disconnector is worn and must be replaced. So let's just try it. Hammer's back, gun's unloaded. So I'm going to pull it back 1/4 of the way, pull the trigger, let it go, and I get a reset. Okay? Pull it back, pull the trigger, forward, and I get a reset. So that means the disconnector, it's doing its job. And really the disconnector's job is to disengage the trigger while something other than it being in battery is happening. So that when the gun goes home, the hammer doesn't just fall and now I have a fully automatic pistol. So really interesting little test there, right? How to test your disconnector. And you've got other ones, how to test the sear, how to make sure the hammer hooks are okay. This is all in here and it illustrated really well. Now this is really great. This is fascinating stuff. So it talks about, remember I said we were going to revisit magazines and springs. This is where it gets really good. So table 3, troubleshooting. So what we see here is a failure to feed. And it says the causes, okay? What are the causes? A dirty or dented magazine. A weak or broken magazine spring. A weak or broken magazine catch. So you start to see improper assembly, meaning the magazine spring is backwards. A bent magazine follower. So failures to feed are not attributed to the feed ramp or to the barrel throat and all these bull crap things that we say nowadays. You guys know how I say if the pistol is built properly and you use good magazines, good recoil springs, and it's lubricated properly, it'll work. Where do you think I got that? Right here. So it's saying failures to feed are a magazine problem. They are not anything else, okay? Failure to chamber, okay? Obstructed chamber or weak recoil spring. Oh man, where have you heard that before? Failure to lock, meaning the barrel locking ribs do not interlock with the locking recesses in the slide. Lack of lubrication or a weak recoil spring. Amazing. So you just keep going down the list here. And all of these issues that it has, almost every single one is related to springs, magazines, and lubrication. Now, of course, it talks about parts breakage, which is a thing. But the stuff that you can solve, all the problems come back to recoil springs, magazines, and lubrication. It's, man, I just can't say this emphatically enough. Okay, remember how I told you that the manuals give you technical data on how long the springs should be. So it says here, and it's talking about inspecting your pistol slide group assembly. So we're just making sure everything's okay. This is not function test. This is actually physically inspecting every part. It tells you how to do that. And one of the most interesting things here is inspect the recoil spring for weakness. The free length of the recoil spring should be approximately 6.5 inches. Now this is just one metric by which to test whether or not a recoil spring is proper. But you guys have seen me throw in this picture many a times where I'm showing you that the stock springs in factory guns are too short. How do I know what the right length is? I just read it to you. You put a tape measure on those stock springs, I promise you they are under 6.5 inches. Whereas Wilson Combat, surprise, surprise, 6.5 inches. Guys, when I say this, I'm not making it up. You actually learn quite a lot. And this sounds elementary, and you sort of kind of go, yeah, duh. Like, no duh, I can read the manual, but do you? This, what I just showed you, those few pieces right there, were a huge building block for me in understanding what makes this pistol tick. And it's straight from the sources, right? This is straight from the early Colt engineers and John Moses Browning himself. He was still around when this one was written, not that one. He died in, I think, 35. But these helped me so much to realize that, like, man, I can make a 1911 run really reliably if I just have it properly sprung, good magazines, and properly lubricated. And that has been my experience, and that is what I've been teaching. And it's not stuff that I've gotten from some modern day gun guru who makes custom pistols. And I'm not disparaging them, but they have a niche that they're in. They're trying to, quote unquote, improve on the original guns. So these manuals have helped me understand what makes these pistols tick and how to keep them working. And it's quite simple. It's spelled out for us right there. Good recoil springs, properly spec'd, and I've given you those specs in proper other videos. Good magazines, right? Good lubrication, and the guns run. What I haven't done is just, gone on the internet and saw some, 1911 superstar guru guy tell me that, well, I sell $6,000 pistols and I say this, therefore I'm right. And you can hear the sarcasm in that. I have a little bit of a problem when the guys who didn't design the pistol say something opposite the guy who designed the pistol. Because here's the reality. This pistol was working before any of those guys were born. So their input into the design of the pistol is zero. Again, I have to say over and over and over, I'm not disparaging custom gun makers, but I think there's a mistake when we start to intertwine the things they believe, which I'm not saying are wrong, but they start to intertwine their thoughts on their pistols with the original guns, because I'm reading to you the source material. So if you want to learn a lot about these pistols, I recommend, personally, I think the two most helpful manuals you can get online is this one. It is a reprint by Paladin, I believe. Let me make sure I'm telling you the truth there. Paladin Press. These are a little harder to find and they're a little pricey. This one cost me $60. If you can find a PDF online and print it out, happy days. But I think the 1918 manual for the 1911 is very helpful. I also like this one, which is readily available on Amazon. I think I paid $12 for this. It's a reprint of the 1911 manual. And this one, like I said, it's great. I mean, it starts out with a picture of the man himself. There's John Moses, right? And so a lot of history, a lot of technical data, really good troubleshooting advice. Like this is genuinely a helpful manual. Other source material, the patent documents, you can find those online. I believe Forgotten Weapons has a section on his website with a lot of great source material. There is also the Jerry Kuhnhausen shop manual for the 1911. That one's excellent as well. That one's loaned out to a friend right now, so I don't have it in front of me. Lots of great stuff out there. If you're going to start with 4, my top 4 are the Jerry Kuhnhausen shop manual book, the 1918 manual, the 1964 manual, and the original patent documents. I think those 4 tell you a lot about the pistol, about the original design, how it is intended to be used, troubleshooting, how these parts are supposed to work together. You just go down the list, how to take care of it, how to keep it running. I know it sounds silly, but so much of what I have learned is not just regurgitating what some 1911 super duper guy tells me. I'm actually reading the source material, and it's super, super helpful. Which is why, look, I'm not saying this. These are not my ideas. I'm not being arrogant when I say this, but this is why the advice that I'm giving you guys, a lot of you are getting helped by it. It's working for you, and the reason is right here. It says it all. Okay, that's the video for today. I'm gonna stop there. I could go really long on this topic, and I already have gone way too long. I hope you guys found this interesting. I find this subject very interesting, very helpful. So look, at the bare minimum, I would say if you're only going to get one, just one, go on Amazon, get this one. It was $13 from 1964, and you can see the code of the manual there. This one is fantastic. This is a great manual. It is 64 pages, including credits in the back. So it's a very short read, and you're going to learn a lot about your pistol. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm really looking forward to doing more of these type of videos, and we will see you on the next one.